Hey guys, welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, for being subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this conversation. Now, I want to play this clip from TGIF because, oh gosh, Q, always known as Funky Dineva, and Claudia Jordan, they had a disagreement. I don't want to call it a fight, but it was about the topic of conversation that they were discussing was about Dylan Mulvaney, who is a trans woman, and the fact that he was named Woman of the Year for some magazine. And the conversation went a little bit left, but I wanted to talk about this because I've noticed this, and Claudia, she's mentioned it before as well, when it comes to conversations about topics like this, and not even just topics like this. If a topic comes up and it is something that Funky Dineva isn't agreeing with the person in their opinion, for the most part. I'm not going to say he's always like, you're wrong and I'm right. But most of the time, he voices his opinion about that person's state of views on a situation in such a way as to really tear the person down or make them feel like they're just out and outright bad or wrong. And he gave Claudia a label that really I felt like was offensive, and one that's really harsh for a lot of people: the transphobic and homophobic line. And I really wanted to talk about this because seeing a lot of the comments in the comment section, there were actually a lot of gay men that were saying, I am a gay man, I'm in the LGBTQ community, and I 100% agree with Claudia. So because I'm not in that community, I don't sit and try to tell them how to feel or tell them, who they are or whatever. I would never do that. But it really is hard when you hear someone in that community give these blanketed titles and labels to people when they really are not that. Because yes, there are a lot of hateful people in this world. And to be honest with you, phobia, the term phobia means a fear of. And a lot of people who deal in racism and sexism and things like that, even though they won't admit it, a lot of their anger and vitriol and even violence, it does stem from fear. It really, really does stem from fear, but they won't admit that. But a phobia is a fear of something. So honestly, the phobic and phobia line, when it comes to people labeling someone as homophobic or transphobic, a lot of times shouldn't really even be used, because they don't mean that the person is afraid of them. They're meaning to say this person hates them, or this person is, disgusted by them, or whatever. Those are really what they mean. Those are the things that they really mean when they label someone as transphobic or homophobic, when in all honesty, they shouldn't even be labeled as phobic. But I don't agree with Funky Dineva by calling her those labels, because she had a point of view to express, and he just really didn't want to hear it.
Transgender woman Dylan Mulvaney was recently named Woman of the Year by Virgin Atlantic and a British LGBTQ magazine. During her acceptance speech, Dylan said, "I'm so honored to be with you all tonight. And some see me as the Woman of the Year. Some see me as Woman of the Year, and some change, as I only publicly came out online 560 days ago. And some people don't see me as a woman at all." Any thoughts on Dylan receiving this recognition? Go ahead, Q. I want to hear this.
Actually,
really none. And this is one of those stories I was like, oh, Lord, I hope tonight Claudia don't go on one of her tangents with this woman stuff and this trans stuff because I'm not in the mood for it. But honestly and truthfully, this really is a non-story. It's an LGBTQ magazine. Let it alone. It's not like it's Sports Illustrated. It's not like it's Entertainment Tonight. If she's going to be named Woman of the Year anywhere, let it be in the LGBTQ space. This really is a non-story, in my opinion.
Al? I'm going to have to disagree with Q on this one. I understand where he's coming from by saying it's a non-story because it's in an LGBTQ plus magazine. However, just within that community, some women in that community feel marginalized when these type of awards are given to trans women. So, I was thinking about it. How do you actually answer this question without offending natural born women versus also not offending trans women? So I was thinking, maybe is it wrong for them to just create a whole new category and call it Trans Woman of the Year?
Or... I can't speak for trans women. I can't speak for them. But my assumption is that doesn't work because I'm a woman.
Okay, I got it. So then let me shift the conversation then, because that's some murky waters that I am not prepared for, and a discussion that's harder. But I do want to talk about this. Why don't we hear or see these discussions when it comes to trans men? Like, I really feel like some way that it's manipulated in how things are reported, how it's coverage and highlighted in media, or is someone in the higher up saying, hey, let's create this division between trans women and cisgender women?
I can answer that succinctly for you.
Okay.
And the simple answer is male privilege. The simple answer is, and that's why you don't see men fighting with trans men, because they'll never be a threat.
Got it.
And it literally is that simple. A trans man will never be a threat to a man because of male privilege.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, let me go ahead and say something, and I take slight offense to you, Q, saying that I don't want her to go on one of her rants. I'm supposed to defend. If we had a gay issue, and I said, and it was an issue that affected your community, you would definitely defend yours and go hard.
No, you just teeter the lines of transphobic and homophobic.
No, I don't.
You do. You do. Because we defended our communities. You do.
And what if I said you cheated the lines of being negative and black women hatred? Like, no.
I'll accept it. It won't be the first time I heard it.
Because then you sit there and make a video about how you don't. It's not transphobic when I say I'm just being positive and pro women, and I've never said anything negative about trans women. I've actually have defended a lot of times. I remember being on shows with people, with men, straight men, just cisgender men, which I don't like using that term, but natural born men, and fighting vehemently for the rights and the acknowledgement of the trans community. The problem with this, and I think, and you're also part of this, you can't have a space where if I have any criticism for something you've done and you happen to be gay or trans, that means it's an indictment against the community, because that's not fair. It's an indictment against an individual, an argument with the individual, but it's not fair to put that on someone, because it makes people just be afraid to have a real honest conversation. Like, if you have a fight with me and it's about principle, a thing, right? Not anything to do with me as a black woman or you as a gay man. It should not be deemed as you being anti-black woman, and it should not be deemed as me being homophobic or transphobic. If I can never criticize you because of what box you check off, is that equal rights or is that privilege? And I think that's unrealistic. I have no hatred or fear of the trans community, and I resent that label. So I'm going to say something every single time. And yes, this woman being named Woman of the Year in a neutral space, of course I would have something to say about that. But in a trans space, hell no, have at it. But since we voice our opinions, I think there's other trans women that are more notable that deserve it. And I'll say T.S. Madison deserves it more for the strides that T.S. Madison has made. I just heard about Dylan 300 days ago. So that's what I'm saying. I have to say something, because I feel like when we make comments like that, it just shuts people up that I can't say anything critical or I'm going to be deemed transphobic, when you know that's not the case. We've had conversations about this, and I just want to make that very clear. All right? I don't have any hatred or phobias for the community. I don't.
All right, so you heard that, and I definitely agree with her, but I'm not even speaking about this in terms of talking about the trans community or the LGBTQ community. I'm speaking about something that I think is really dangerous that Funky Dineva does, and it's really sad because he is one that will sound the clarion call for things that he feels are not right, and for him to speak about someone that I thought he deemed as a friend, not just a coworker, Claudia, and call her homophobic, that she teeters on the lines, I should say, of homophobia and transphobia. It is outrageous, and I'm glad that she spoke on that. Because, listen, it has been well documented, and I've watched a lot of the episodes. I've not seen every single one of them, and I kind of backed off a little bit. I hadn't been watching their content as much as I was. I just kind of pulled back. I didn't do a boycott or unsubscribe or anything like that when he came out and he made those horrible, egregious comments about Chloe Bailey, which I definitely can agree when people make comments about how Chloe Bailey, it's just uncomfortable to see her act out in a way with how she does things on social media when it comes to just showcasing her body, when I feel that she has more talent and she would probably fare better if she were to do that more. But I would never go to the lengths that he did when he was just, I don't know, having a bad day or whatever and calling her ugly and she needs to put on makeup and just a number of different things that he said. It's okay for him to say that, come out and make this dry apology after the fact, but then he can sit there and say that Claudia teeters on the lines of homophobia and transphobia. And then I'm going to play a clip of something else because he does this a lot. And I've spoken about this before too. He's done it with Al. He's done it with Claudia, where if they say something that he doesn't agree with, not every single time, because they don't agree on everything all of the time, but a lot of times he has, said, oh, that's dumb, that's stupid, go on to the next thing, whatever. He just doesn't really show a lot of respect, in my personal opinion, for other people's views when they do not align with what he feels and what he has said. I'm going to play a small portion. I talked about this before. They were having a discussion about Dr. Heavenly from Married to Medicine, Quad from Married to Medicine, and the fact that some people are calling Dr. Heavenly foul and shady, and some of the other Married to Medicine castmates to say that they conspire to get Dr. Gregory Lunsford, Quad's ex-husband, and his new wife to be on the show. And, they were talking about that, but the reason why I want to play this clip is I talked about this before. This had come out previously when Dr. Heavenly was co-hosting when Claudia was away on TGIF, and they were speaking about the Tyler Perry situation and how he pissed a lot of black women off by saying the things that he said, and she and Al got into it. Now, she was fired from that co-hosting gig, not just because they got into it on the show. I believe it had a lot to do with what she did and what transpired on her own platform after the fact, and saying some things that I know Al deemed as disrespectful, and brought it up to the producers. So in this clip, you're going to hear them talking about that somewhat. I'm not playing it from the beginning, but you're going to hear Al chime in, and then you're going to hear what Funky Dineva says to Al in response to what he had to say and how he felt about the situation.
1000%. I totally understand how she feel like, damn, why me? Because after so many years with the show, you feel like I have some kind of currency with y'all or some kind of thing, but nope. It don't freaking matter. Of course they would jump on that. That's great TV. We would love to. They always want to see that kind of stuff. But I understand the humanity in me is like, yeah, of course that would feel like shit. Al, what do you think about this?
That's very interesting that you asked me, Claudia, because I've been a part of this show for since inception. And I think there's space for me to argue that I, obviously didn't have the best interaction with Miss Dr. Heavenly. And we know that, right? It's no secret here. So the fact that we're even covering her on my show at the top of this discussion, I wanted to say that I was super offended. Like, why are we talking or giving someone a platform, on my show who disrespected me? But after hearing you guys, that's what producers are supposed to do, right? We're supposed to cover information. We're supposed, whether we like it or not. And so here, you guys just helped me neutralize the thought that I had earlier about how I felt. Because honestly, I felt disrespected covering the story.
Really? I've had to sit here many times that we talked to people that have said horrific things about me in front of millions of people. And I know how you feel. It's like, then you get criticized with any little thing you do with your face. If you, they read into that and say you're still mad. You in your feelings. Like, you're not.
But I just thought about it. When I read the story, I just took it very personal, right? And then just listening to Q's discussion, this is an example of, this is the type of show that we do. And so I can't just take this personal because.
Well, in fairness, Al, in fairness, you're being a pansy because Dr. Heavenly is not the story, Quad's the story.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Yeah, maybe you're missing what I'm saying.
And he's definitely missing what he's saying.
But I get it.
And that's why I wanted to play that clip, because if you watched that, and I'll put a link to it in the description box if you want to see the facial expression of Funky Dineva when Al was speaking, he was missing the point. He was so in his feelings that he wasn't even listening to what Al was saying. The point Al was making was that he didn't have the best interaction with Dr. Heavenly. So he didn't even really want to talk about her. But when they were speaking about Quad being in her feelings about the production bringing her ex-husband and his new wife on the show and not considering her feelings, and Claudia and Funky Dineva, they were speaking about, well, yeah, we understand the personal feelings involved, but yet that's production's job. They're not considering your feelings. They're thinking about what is going to be best for the views, what's going to get the viewers locked in, what's going to get those ratings up, what's going to get the advertisers to pour in those dollars, because it's about, at the end of it all, making money, right? So they were speaking about that. And then Al was making a point. He was saying, the fact that we're speaking about Dr. Heavenly that I didn't really have the best interaction with. I was in my feelings at first, and I felt like, I've been on this show since inception, and I really don't want to talk about her, but I get it. And you guys speaking about this from the perspective of Quad, her ex-husband, his new wife, Dr. Heavenly having a conversation with Quad, and even Quad, not Quad, but even Dr. Heavenly being friends with the new wife, and people are saying that she's being messy and blah, blah, blah. I understand even more so now, because it's not about me. It's about the show. It's about the production. And so I get it. That's what Al was saying. And then Funky Dineva's response is, well, the story isn't even about Dr. Heavenly. It's about Quad. But they were talking about Dr. Heavenly, right? So it was just him being in his feelings, because one, we know that Funky Dineva and Dr. Heavenly are friends. He's very well made that known. And when Dr. Heavenly was on the show and she and Al were having their back and forth, Q was loving it. He was sitting there eating it up. He was smiling. He was laughing. He was reveling in it, because, yeah, he is messy. And, messy is funny at times. And sometimes I'm here for the mess too. But for him to get in his feelings and call Al out and say, well, really, you're being a pansy because blah, blah. I was like, what? And Al said, he didn't take offense to it. He said, I think you're missing the point. And I 100% agreed with him. But it goes back to what he said to Claudia about her being transphobic and homophobic, or teetering on the lines, like he said. He doesn't really get it when it comes to, oh, I hate to say it. I'm not saying he can't be professional. Obviously, he knows how to. I'm quite sure that is one of the things that really helped him to be on the show. But this is a messy show as well. TGIF is not, MSNBC news panel where they're speaking about, foreign affairs and, politics and stuff like that. So, no, he's not going from being messy on his own YouTube channel to a whole different genre. He's basically talking about the same type of stuff that he talked about on his own channel, just on a much, I wouldn't even say a much grander, larger scale, but it did give more people views and access to him, because just because he already had a large following, it doesn't mean that everybody knew who he was and everybody was following him. But he's gotten way more access. He's been able to meet more celebrities and, do different things that they get the opportunity to do being these hosts and panelists on TGIF on Fox Soul. But the arrogance of it all and just his attitude sometimes when it comes to the disagreements that he has with his co-hosts, I wouldn't be able to do it. I commend Claudia and Al for being able to handle it. And I'm not even one of those people who doesn't like him or calls him the names, because I've seen the names that people have called him, and it can be messy. But I just did not really like this exchange, and that's why I just wanted to talk about this. So guys, I'm going to leave links in the description box of these. You can let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for being here, for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.